mama strength.
Welcome everybody for joining me for another video. Thanks for clicking on. This is Bill Mack here with another edition of Pro Wrestling Unleashed. Glad you folks could join me. Like I said once again, this video is for the Raw recap for September the 25th, 2017. This is of course the post Raw after the No Mercy pay-per-view that happened, Sunday night. Thought it was a pretty good show. It was all right. I mean, some things happened that I wasn't kind of expecting to happen, but overall, I thought it was a pretty decent show. Of course, The Miz kind of teased that he wanted, from the pay-per-view, he wanted to begin Miz TV to open up this edition of Raw, which, Kurt Angle agreed to do, So then he calls Roman Reigns down. Of course, we know Roman Reigns defeated John Cena. And he talks to him about how he feels about John Cena. And, he puts over John Cena, but he's the big dog, And then he starts talking about that if he was, that the real winner's the champion and only champion in the ring was him. And he talks about what he did to Jason Jordan. And then he talks to Roman Reigns and talks about how he basically chokes and names off like Samoa Joe and he names off Brock Lesnar and different ones that Roman's choked over. Well, Roman gets bothered by that. So then he eventually challenges Miz to a match. Miz says, look, I'm not ready. We're not going to have a match. I'm in my suit. And then so he goes to leave, and Kurt Angle comes out, and Kurt Angle says, Miz, you will have a match tonight. You will be challenging Roman Reigns. And Miz to Raw, don't worry about you. You guys have a tag team match, which is going to be right now. So he ends up calling out Matt Hardy, and since Jeff Hardy, which has a shoulder injury, which will require surgery, so he's going to be out, his partner for the night, Matt Hardy's partner will be none other than his son, Jason Jordan. So I thought this was a decent match, back and forth with the guys. Matt and Jason seem to work pretty good together. They're used to both being in tag teams. The ending comes when Jason Jordan suplexes Curtis Axel, and this allows Matt Hardy to hit the twist of fate on Bo Dallas to win the match. So in their first tag team match together, Jason Jordan and Matt Hardy both end up winning their matchup. So, and what was kind of funny was they both were in the same colors. Jason Jordan had that green that he's been wearing, and Matt Hardy just happened to be wearing green too. So kind of odd that they both had green on, but needless to say, they had a good match. Up next, we've seen a rematch from the kickoff show, which was Elias taking on Apollo Crews. Elias started singing about Apollo Crews, and of course, he's going to come out. And Apollo Crews is athletic, and I stated this, I think, on my predictions, or it might have been right the results shows, that he's very talented. He just has no charisma at all. And we've seen Titus out there, and Titus, I guess, is his mouthpiece, sort of, to speak for him, since I've not really heard him talk too many times on TV. Maybe you folks have. I just haven't. So needless to say, he shows off his athleticism in the ring, which he did do that. So, and he was actually in control of the matchup to win. But once they get on the outside, he starts getting distracted with Titus, and you go about Titus Worldwide, and they were doing that. Elias gets in the ring, and then we see Elias end up hitting the drift away on Apollo Crews to get the win. And then while they were on the outside, Elias kind of tripped or kicked Titus, and he went down. So after the matchup, Titus was upset, and he went in the ring and started to get in Elias's face, and like he wanted to fight him and whatnot. And Elias, of course, being the heel, he backed down. So maybe there's a feud there between Titus and Elias coming up, which is funny, Titus and Elias. So maybe they'll come up there. So maybe that'll be a feud that maybe they'll want to look at doing. Up next, we come back and we have Kurt Hawkins, and he kind of mentions his historical 118 match in a row losing streak that he's got. He said it's going to end tonight. I challenge anybody in the back. And lo and behold, folks, Braun Strowman comes out. And we know Braun Strowman is highly, highly upset over his loss at the pay-per-view from No Mercy, which he did to me, dominate the matchup. But he was upset. Kurt was going to have no part of it. He got out of the ring. He went through the WWE Universe. Braun caught up to him. He threw him through a powerbomb through a table, and then he threw him on top of the stage, and then he power slammed him right through the back of the Raw screen where you're coming out, right through it. So he's laying down there, and there's 4 referees checking on him. So then Braun goes back to the ring and says he wants formidable competition to bring somebody out, or he's not going to be happy. So lo and behold, anybody to answer it is Dean Ambrose, which I was shocked that Dean Ambrose would attempt to go after Braun after Braun's had a rough day. But of course, Dean went out there, he gave it his best shot. Braun was going to be Braun, of course, and I just knew that was going to happen, and Braun ends up being too much for Dean, and he ends up hitting the power slam on Dean for the win. Now, I thought this was, he'd give it a valiant effort, but it just was for nothing, because I wouldn't even have went out there after Braun being upset. It's bad enough when he squashes you when he's not mad. Imagine when he is mad. So then we come back from commercial and we see him, Seth goes and gets him some ice, and he says, don't do anything like that. It's suicidal. Excuse me. And Dean says, I'm trying to do this for self-improvement. I'm trying to accept bigger challenges, which them two talking was already kind of showing us that this whole half the reunion shield thing ain't going to be much, be a long-term thing. So then we see Enzo comes in after Kurt Angle's telling the referees in the back to watch out for the Miztourage during the Miz's match with Roman Reigns. And he complains about not being able to get a championship celebration. He says, all the champions do. I should be able to have one. I'm no different. So Kurt agrees, and Kurt says, I have some advice to you from a Hall of Famer, which not here. And he says, no. And then he leaves. So, which that kind of says something. That just remains to be seen on what that's going to be, what happening. So we see the Seth, which the Seth moment was after this, not before this, but it was after this. Alexa Bliss is cutting a promo, and she's talking about about basically overtaking the division, because she came out victorious and retaining her Raw Women's title. Mickie James comes out. She calls Mickie James old. Mickie James ends up slapping her, and Alexa leaves the ring. So maybe this is a feud that she's coming out, and Mickie James, because Mickie James has been out for a while. She hasn't been seen since August. So, and that was actually a win the last time we seen her. So maybe they're going to try to do something with Mickie James and Alexa Bliss. We have a matchup, Seth versus Sheamus. Sheamus was very dominating this matchup. He had a lot of in this matchup over Seth. I was surprised that he got as much as he was, even though that Seth was part of the tag team champions. But the ending comes basically when Sheamus tries to go jump off the top rope, and he's met with a super kick by Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins then goes and he hits that running knee strike that he does, and he gets the win over Sheamus. So Seth Rollins ends up winning his match. Dean ends up losing his matchup. So we see a backstage segment between Finn Balor and Goldust, and he was talking about Goldust wasn't wanting Goldust to feel like he was talking about him being a victim or whatnot. And Finn says, well, look, I'll just try to clear it up. Let's just let bygones be bygones. It's over and done with, and then Goldust ends up hitting him in the jaw, and then starts going attacking him backstage, and we see him holding his ribs. Remember, the pay-per-view, Finn was attacked in his ribs, so maybe those ribs are going to be part of the storyline going on out. So, which we know if he attacks Finn in the back, they're only going to have a match, and sure enough, they will. We have the Roman Reigns versus the Miz matchup. We, of course, know there was a couple different times the Miztourage would interfere in this matchup. Roman, of course, is going to be Roman and overcome and overpower anything. As we see Miz going for the Skull Crusher finale, Roman Reigns ends up getting loose, getting out of it, ends up hitting the spear and getting the win. So Roman Reigns ends up defeating him, but lo and behold, the Miztourage go in there, and they start beating Roman Reigns with steel chairs. He ends up The Miz hitting a skull crushing finale on him. They start to walk up the ramp to leave. Miz decided he's not over with and done with it. Goes back and he ends up hits another skull crushing finale, and they leave. Roman Reigns beaten on the ground on the mat, and they stand over him and they do the Shield bump with the Miz and the Miztourage. So Miz teased early on in the Miz TV about the reunion, a Shield reunion, which Roman blew that down. He said, "Look, we're in two different directions. I'm going after the Universal title." But he talked about how the Shield would beat the Miztourage, and Miz said the Miztourage and himself would have defeated the Shield. So maybe they're teasing the Shield getting back together, if not temporarily, for a one-match only thing. So then we did come to a matchup, Finn Balor and Goldust, and Goldust was aggressive on Finn Balor during this matchup. He started right off the bell. He worked over Finn Balor with those ribs throughout the matchup. We seen the tide turn when Finn ends up basically he hits the coup de grace on Goldust in the corner and gets the win, and then all of a sudden Bray's face comes across the screen, and then he's got the whole world in his hands comes back on by a kid playing it, or singing it. So maybe he's getting back into that darkness that he was before, which I'm looking forward to seeing, because I want to see Bray's character back dark, kind of how it was before. So that we can tell this feud the books isn't closed on this feud. It's still going to keep going on from the looks of things. We see Sasha Banks and Bayley in the back. Sasha Banks and Bayley, remember, were in that fatal five-way, and they were kind of upset because neither one of them won. They didn't want, Bayley's like, let's not hold that against each other. We're good friends, so they hug it out, and they say, okay, well, we're teaming up tonight, so we'll squash this, we'll move forward, we'll be a tag team, and we'll be friends. So good to see them make that up. And then we see Enzo, another segment, where Enzo's being annoying. Kurt, he's like, look, I want to make sure this goes off a hitch. I don't want nobody bothering me, nothing interfere, nothing going on. And Kurt Angle eventually tells Enzo, and he calls him, he says, you know what? He says, you can be annoying. So that just shows you there's some back and forth with Enzo, and we'll get to that in a little bit. So then we have Bayley and Sasha Banks taking on Nia Jax and Emma again. Nia Jax, of course, we know dominating. Them girls cannot stay on her. I mean, there's one point where Bayley went to tag Sasha Banks, and Nia stood where she just looked at her, and Bayley didn't even tag. Sasha wouldn't even hold her hand out to tag Bayley. So we know Nia Jax is dominant, definitely, in this. And we basically see they end up getting Nia on the outside, and they send her into the ring post. Emma's laying down on the inside, and Bayley ends up hitting the belly suplex on her, getting the win. So Emma, of course, getting pinned as always, and they're smart. At least they're taking out Nia now, so she doesn't have to worry. They don't have to worry about her defeating her. So they're always going after her first, which is smart when you do that. Finally, we see it wind down. This is the very last thing we see. Enzo Amore comes out. He's touting about him walking in and getting the championship and his dream and following through with it. They didn't show this jersey, which I think he was slow and they were trying to hurry it up, because then they played this music and he unveiled this certified G jersey that he wanted to hang up in the rafters, I guess. Well, then this brings the cruiserweights out there, and the whole cruiserweight division's out there, because on Twitter they had explained their displeasure for Enzo being cruiserweight champion. So he cuts a promo on every single one of them, and they're talking about they wouldn't be a star for him. They didn't have the time given until he got on the show. This brings Neville out. Neville comes out, and he splits the aisle. They open up, let him through. Of course, he's the king of the cruiserweight, so he goes down there and talks to Enzo. And then Enzo rags on him and calls him, Enzo talking about he's a star, and that Neville, when he had the belt, he wasn't even seen the third hour. So they all go on, and Neville ends up jumping on Enzo, and Enzo says, look, I've got this pay-per-view. You can't touch me, or there'll be repercussions for it. So Neville ends up not caring. He's done fed up and had enough. So he ends up jumping on Enzo Amore. He hits the red arrow, which everybody's cheering for him to hit. And we see him standing up, and they're all standing and looking at Enzo. As Enzo, he takes that piece of paper, Neville does, and crams it in Enzo's mouth. So that's how Raw ends up for tonight. Enzo got what he deserved. Enzo, I guess, has become a little bit of a heel. He's turning heel. You can tell that he is. But what was amazing to me was some fans after the show shot some footage of Braun going out there and power slamming Enzo in the middle of the ring after Raw went off. And then he called all the cruiserweights to go to the ring, and they all basically, they all got punches off of Enzo. They all made him like a punching dog. You know, one will punch him, he'll stumble to the other, they'll punch him. Then he got 2 airplane spins on him by 2 different wrestlers. I mean, just a lot went on. So you can tell they're not displeased with Enzo, and he's getting punished for that. And by them beating on him like they are, and him taking that kind of punishment, you can tell he's basically getting that. So that's all that happened on Raw. Like I said, I thought it was pretty decent, and the Enzo stuff was funny, and we can see that transition he's making. So until next time, thanks for joining me for this video. For Bill Mack here with Pro Wrestling Unleashed, saying like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share it with others. Do all that you can, and I appreciate it. So until next time, this is Bill Mack for Pro Wrestling Unleashed saying, take it easy.